Greetings, you mighty mutanimals out there. Duuz-Diz-Din here again with another movie review, this time of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Finally got around to seeing it, and I'll tell you right out the gate, I absolutely loved this movie. It had its ups, it had its downs, but as a whole, as a TMNT fan, I enjoyed the hell out of it. You can usually tell what the tone of a TMNT movie is going to be, or show, depending on what they choose to focus on. Usually if they open up with April O'Neil being attacked by some gang in an alleyway, with the boys coming in with maybe some narration, and they start going to town, you know it's going to be at least a little bit on the gritty side. Not always super gritty, but to some degree. But when a series decides to focus more on the mutant element, you know it's going to be a bit of a comedy. And the title was a dead giveaway because there is plenty of mutant mayhem in this one. And the choice to focus more on the boys' want to be accepted is a great choice to make, because it's an angle that has been there for the characters from time to time, but it's never been explored so fully, and has never actually taken the angles that this movie takes. Not so much in and of the fact that you have a mutant team, which I feel should be named the Mighty Mutanimals, but they're not, wanting to essentially take things over and rise up against the humans. No, it's just simply the fact that the boys want to be integrated into human society more so than ever. There's always been that want, but it is hardcore here. And that was a good choice. Another good choice, switching up the designs of the turtles. Ever since the 2012 series, which had the slightest tweaks, decided to switch up the character designs a little bit, it's been a consistent with every adaptation. Raph ends up being very big, bulky, and stocky. Donatello usually ends up being the tallest or the thinnest. Mikey usually ends up being the shortest and most agile, and Leonardo usually ends up being the standard turtle design. You see it in the Bay films, you definitely see it in Rise. Rise pushes it the furthest, and you can definitely see it here. Another thing that I feel was at the highlight of the 2012 series that has carried on till now is making the TMNT feel more and more like teenagers. Most other adaptations, they always felt more like maybe college students along those lines. Freshman college students at the very youngest. But the 2012 series, Rise, and this, especially this, make them feel like teens. There are discussions and moments and interactions they have that just had me flashing back to high school, or listening to 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds that are in my life just holding discussion. God, it hit me so hard when Donatello kept bringing up Attack on Titan, and I'm just like, okay, I feel like you're calling me out in this movie. It was wild. And speaking of personality, Donatello, naturally the tech nerd and all that, he was a geek, but I like the fact that nobody really picked on him for being a geek, because picking on the geek isn't as cool as it used to be back in the day. But the funny thing is, it's not like he really comes up with a lot of gadgets and stuff like that. He knows machines. He's the turtle who knows how to drive for some reason. He's just really good at it. Michelangelo is the most exuberant and free-spirited. He's the hippie of the group, essentially. Raphael is a hothead, but it's more that he rushes in and can be a little bit impulsive and ready for action a little bit. It's not as though he gets pissed off too easily. Because let's face it, some adaptations of Raphael could sometimes make it feel like he's a bit of a psychopath. Sometimes that's what you want, sometimes it's like, dude, you need to chill. Leonardo is the one who probably gets raked across the coals the most by the rest of the crew, just because he tends to be the buzzkill of everyone. He's the first to tattle. He's always trying to take charge, something that you also saw in the 2012 series. Because I feel like other adaptations, as much as I love the 2000 was it 2001 or 2002? The early 2000 series. Stuff from that and previous always felt like they were just a super team, Most of them followed Leo, and then you'd have the Raphael and Leonardo button heads moment. However, that wet blanket nature is kind of uprooted when they meet April O'Neil. Another Black April down the pipeline. It's getting a little bit more commonplace. Maybe that black replacement theory is a thing. I'm joking. April, she's fine here. I like her overall. They made her a lot more average girl than I was used to. I think it's just because the April in Rise was so bombastic, so action-oriented, so just willing to rush into every situation. Having this more reserved April kind of took me aback a little bit. This isn't science nerd April, it's reporter April for the most part. April here had a bit of an incident when reporting the news for the school, and that scene with April. The slime, the vomit, and the ooze, all green in this, has never made this feel more like a Nickelodeon thing than ever before. But April had an incident and she's trying to move past it. So she bonds with the boys after they help save her scooter, which I enjoy that they still incorporated the boys fighting a gang to do something for April. And I also love the fact that the Turtles weren't great in their first fight. They fumbled it hard, but they started to get the hang of it as they went because they had the skills and training. And so they ally with April to track down this criminal Superfly because they both want this form of acceptance, and I love that bonding element between them. When it comes to Splinter, the choice to have him voiced by Jackie Chan kind of threw me at first, but it grew on me after a while. Although because Splinter here was a rat originally, and the choice to have it be that he taught the kids martial arts and kung fu and ninjutsu and all that through like training videos and stuff like that is cool in concept until Splinter actually has to throw down, and he throws down against armed goons, and I'm just like, okay, the kids were fighting idiots for the most part. I could believe they could get lucky enough. Splinter's fight scene immediately made me go, no. He's doing too well against too many people on his own. But his apprehension to the human world makes a lot of sense. As someone who was originally a rat, and more specifically a rat living out on the streets, he had no Hamato Yoshi who he trained off of or anything like that. I love that he did try to go to the surface. They were shunned, and he ended up with a disdain from humans, more of a disdain than he already had. And so he has a prejudice and all that, so he tries to keep the boys below ground. But the boys want to just branch out and do their own thing. The fight scenes in this, so good. That montage where they're going from organization to organization that works under Superfly was absolutely awesome. And then, dude, the villains, they were a colorful cast of characters. Definitely the Mighty Mutanimals kind of vibe. And I love that when the Turtles finally encounter them, they just hit it off. Because it's like, oh, you're mutants? We're mutants. And they immediately connect all the dots. Baxter Stockman is immediately kind of taken out of this movie immediately. And I heard that he was supposed to be Superfly originally, but that ended up being changed up somewhere during production. He escaped from this organization run by Cynthia Utrom. Utrom should be notable to anybody who knows anything TMNT. And he was creating this legion of mutants for acceptance. I love the themes of acceptance in this movie. I love it. Like, I've loved the themes lately of just that want to be accepted by people around you. I know it might feel like it's getting a little repetitive, but shoot, that's always been something that's been a major thing in my life, is like search for those who would accept you. Because you could go to some pretty dark places without that. And Superfly's crew was just so great. Scumbug, played by Alex Hirsch of all people, was actually just, it was wild, kind of gross, and the relationship with Splinter was so nasty. Definitely just hit there for the gross out humor. Genghis Frog, played by Hannibal Buress, was also kind of just there to be funny and fun. Ray Fillet just breaking out into in a song here and there. Mondo Gecko, played by Paul Rudd, was actually really cool. And I love the fact that in the 2012 series, in the comics, the IDW comic, and here, there's always a weird bond between Mikey and Mondo Gecko. Like, it's just immediately they vibe, and I love that. Paul Rudd really stole some of the scenes he had as Mondo Gecko. I didn't know how well he was going to do, but I loved him as Mondo Gecko. They gender bent Wingnut and Leatherhead, which was okay. Wingnut was alright, and Leatherhead was alright. They weren't the biggest of characters, but they were fun enough. Leatherhead had these weird goggles and stuff, and this really hardcore Australian accent, and Wingnut was very polite. You had Bebop and Rocksteady. Bebop was played by Seth Rogen. He had to be in there, of course. And John Cena as Rocksteady. It's funny because he was already in another TMNT property. I know he only played Baron Draxum in Season 1, and Roger Craig Smith did a great job as him in Season 2. I hardly ever noticed. But John Cena just keeps coming back to play in TMNT stuff. And Bebop and Rocksteady, for the most part, were just kind of goobers for the most part, but I liked it well enough. But man, Ice Cube as Superfly? Dude was hardcore. There were so many moments where Superfly got stupid aggro, and I'm just like, dude, I need you to chill, because he got intense in some parts. Also, there were a lot of moments where it felt like Ice Cube was about to like curse, and I'm like, I really wanted to be in the recording booth when he records some of his lines, because I'm just like, man, how much ended up getting cut from Ice Cube's lines? But Superfly has this plan to mutate the world and rise up against the humans and all that. The turtles aren't down. Chaos ensues. The turtles end up getting beat up and captured by Cynthia Uthtrom's organization. April and Splinter go in and rescue them, and then they go off to fight the mutanimals, as I want to call them. And a moment that I actually loved is, I thought there was going to be like this big bombastic fight, but the turtles managed to convince Superfly's crew. It's just like, do you really want to kill all of humanity? Because Superfly and the crew kind of had the same backstory as the turtles. They tried to be accepted by humans, and humans turned against them. The only difference is Superfly went out and started killing people. Like, straight up, Superfly killed people. That caught me off guard. But the rest of the crew are just like, nah, I'm not really cool with murder. Like, they were just kind of going with it, but it's like, okay, now that we've kind of been given another option and it's been put out there, yeah, I'm kind of okay with not killing people. And I kind of love that. Like, genuinely, it's just like, you know, we're not really down with this. So they all battle against Superfly, and they manage to stop his device, but it causes Superfly to be mutated into a massive kaiju. So all the mutants have to fight against it, and a lot of the humans start to think, okay, oh, is it just a big mutant attack? So April breaks into the newscasting room and puts the real story out there, managing to conquer her fears for the most part. Still a little bit of vomit. And I will admit, the moment when the whole of New York comes to aid the turtles and the mutanimals and all that was really cheesy, very Amazing Spider-Man kind of, we're all New Yorkers, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, he said, being born in New York. But I was kind of hit or miss with it. Just because of all the random people getting involved in delivering this demutagenic agent to Superfly. But it was a fun climax. They demutate Superfly, the people of New York cheer for the turtles, and the turtles get to go to high school, which was the biggest, like, oh, yeah. Because, I mean, the secret's out there. I mean, cat's out of the bag, and it's out of the bag hard. So honestly, it makes me excited to see what they do next, because the turtles are going to high school with April and all that. You know, the people of New York know about them, they accept them for the most part, and I guess we'll see the daily lives of them in high school in Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which should be coming out this year, time of recording. But Cynthia still wants the turtles. But with them being in the public eye, that'll be a little bit harder. So she's decided to enlist the help of the Shredder, which again is pretty interesting because there's that disconnect. They don't have that past with the Shredder here. I know there's a sequel movie in the works too, and the series is supposed to bridge into that sequel, but it makes me wonder, how much of a connection is it gonna have, really? And will the Shredder be involved in the series or only in the sequel movie? Because I know that with the Sonic stuff, the Knuckles series, the miniseries, is a direct lead into the third movie. So are they doing the same thing here, or is it something completely different? And once the movie ended, I was the most excited for what happens after the fact, because it's such an interesting direction to go in. But this movie was great. 2 thumbs up. Had a massively amazing time watching it. Couldn't recommend it more, but I want to hear from you. What did you think about Mutant Mayhem? What was your favorite part? Who was your favorite character? I gotta admit, I was really vibing with Superfly and the continued romance of April O'Neil in some of these properties with the Turtles. You had Donatello crushing on her in the 2012 series. You had Mikey crushing on her in the Bay films. And now you have Leonardo crushing on her here. The only person out at this point is Raph. At this point, it's like, okay, when are you finally gonna do it? You've had everybody else crushing on her, unless there was something in Rise that I was just woefully unaware of. But regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. Till then, bye-bye.